Look at your hands. No, really look at them. Grip the edge of whatever chair you're sitting in until your knuckles turn that bloodless graveyard white. You feel that? That's the only thing you actually own, this moment, this breath, and you're currently pissing it away watching a screen, thinking you have time. I'm 95 years old. I am sitting in a room that smells of industrial lavender and fading hope. I have buried a wife, 2 brothers, and every friend who ever knew what I looked like with hair. From this vantage point, this ridge at the very end of the world, I can see the mountain you're climbing, and I'm telling you, the view from the top is a lie. I have a question for you, and I want it to burn. How much is your silence worth? If I offered you $10,000 right now to never speak to your child again for the rest of your life, would you take it? You'd spit in my face. You'd call me a monster. You're principled, aren't you? You're a provider. Then why have I already paid that price? I did the math. It took me 3 days and a showbox full of old bank statements. I spent $487,000 raising my son, food, orthodontics, a private college he didn't want, and a mountain of plastic toys to apologize for my absence. In 40 years, we have had exactly 47 hours of actual soul-bearing conversation. That's it. I am a $500,000 stranger. I paid $10,362 for every hour of connection I actually kept. The rest was just overhead for a ghost. He calls twice a year, Christmas, my birthday, 6 minutes each. He sounds like a man reading a weather report to a telemarketer. How's the hip, Dad? Fine, Leo. Good, good. Well, the kids have practice. Talk soon. Click. $10,000 of potential vanished in 6 minutes of static. You think you're building a legacy? You're building a waiting room. You're telling yourself that after this promotion, after the house is paid off, after the busy season, then you'll start the real life. You are addicted to the after. But after is a phantom. It doesn't exist. There is only the now you are currently betraying and the later that will eventually come to collect your debt. Let me take you back to the moment I signed the contract for my own execution. November 14th, 1987. It was a Saturday in Connecticut. The air had that sharp metallic scent of coming snow, the kind that makes your lungs ache if you breathe too fast. My son Leo was 10. He had this cowlick right at the crown of his head that no amount of spit or gel could conquer. It made him look perpetually surprised, like he'd just landed on Earth and wasn't sure about the gravity. He was in the school play. He had 3 lines as a town crier, 3 lines. He'd practiced them in the hallway for 3 weeks. Hear ye, the king approaches. He'd shouted at the toaster. He'd shouted at the cat, but that Saturday morning my desk phone rang. It was Miller. Miller didn't care about town criers. Miller cared about the queue for closing. There was a $40,000 bonus on the table if I could fly to Chicago and handhold a client who was getting cold feet. $40,000. In 1987, that was a goddamn fortune. That was a down payment. That was security. I looked at Leo. He was wearing these ridiculous yellow tights and holding a plastic bell. He looked at me with that cowlick twitching, waiting for me to grab my coat. Big emergency at work, Leo, I said. The words tasted like copper. I have to catch a flight. But listen, I'll make it up to you. I'll get you that Nintendo, the one. With the gray controllers, everything you want. The light didn't leave his eyes all at once. It just dimmed like a lamp being turned down in another room. Okay, Dad, he said. He didn't cry. He just put the bell down on the kitchen table. It made a dull thud on the formica. I chose the $40,000. I chose the bonus. I chose the after. I got the money. I bought the Nintendo. I watched him play it from the doorway for 6 years while I worked late, the blue light of the television reflecting off his face, masking the fact that he'd stopped looking for me in the audience. I thought I was paying for his future. I was actually paying for my own replacement. I was trapped in the room of permanence. I thought Leo would always be 10, wearing yellow tights, waiting for me to come home. I didn't realize that every time I chose the bonus, I was eroding the bridge back to him. Are you at your desk right now? Is there a Leo in your life waiting for a bell that you've traded for a spreadsheet? Don't look away. I'm 95. I have nothing left to lose by offending you. You are currently making the same calculation I did, and you're arrogant enough to think your result will be different. That $40,000 bonus from 1987 didn't stay in my bank account. It turned into a kitchen remodel in 92. It turned into a luxury sedan in 98 that smelled like leather and loneliness. It evaporated. But the silence compounded at a rate that would make a loan shark weep. By 1993, the distance between Leo and me wasn't a choice anymore. It was a geography. I had spent 6 years being the man who bought things instead of the man who was there. We had entered the phase of the great trade. I traded his 12th year for a vice presidency. I traded his first heartbreak for a week-long conference in Scottsdale where I drank lukewarm scotch and talked about market penetration. With men I haven't spoken to in 30 years. I told myself I'm doing this for him. That is the greatest lie a man ever tells himself. I wasn't doing it for him. I was doing it for my own scorecard. I was addicted to the scorecard obsession, the belief that if my title was big enough and my house was grand enough, the love would be implied. I thought success was a destination, where my family would be waiting for me, cheering when I finally decided to arrive. But life isn't a destination, it's an erosion. By the time Leo was 20, the math started to get ugly. I sat down one night in 1997, December 22nd, a Tuesday, and I tried to remember the last time we'd talked for more than 10 minutes without the television on. I couldn't. I realized that if I'd called him just once a week for those 10 years, we would have had 520 conversations. I had made maybe 12. I lost 508 chances to know who my son was becoming. I looked at him across the dinner table that night. He was home from college. He was humming a tune under his breath, that nervous habit he picked up from my brother Thomas. He looked like a man, but to me he was a stranger in a rented body. I realized I didn't know what he was afraid of. I didn't know what made him laugh when I wasn't in the room. I had the inheritance delusion. I thought that because we shared blood, I had a permanent seat at the table of his life. I was wrong. You don't inherit a relationship. You lease it, and the rent is due every damn day in the currency of your attention. The timeline compressed. 1997 bled into 2005. By then, the after had finally arrived. I was retired. I had the money. I had the time. I called him on a Thursday in April. The sun was hitting the dust motes in my office, and the house was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator hum. "Leo," I said, "I thought I'd come down this weekend. Maybe we could go to that lake. Catch some bass like we used to." There was a pause on the other end. I could hear the sound of a keyboard clicking. His life was moving. It was loud. It was full. And there was no room in it for a ghost. "Dad," he said, and his voice was kind, which was almost worse than if he'd been angry. "I've got the kids' soccer tournament, and we're finishing the Q2 reports. Maybe next month. Next month? I had spent 30 years teaching him that later was the most important word in the English language. I had modeled the behavior perfectly. I had shown him that work comes first, that bonuses are more important than bells, and that the people who love you will always be there in the after. I had succeeded. I had raised a man exactly like me, and my reward was his absence. I did the calculation again more carefully this time as the years rolled toward 2026. If you live to be 80, you get about 4,000 weeks. That sounds like a lot until you realize that by the time your child is 18, you have already spent 90% of all the time you will ever spend with them, 90%. I spent my 90% in meetings. I spent my 90% staring at a flickering cursor. I spent my 90% building a mountain of gold so high that I could no longer see my son on the other side of it. I told myself I'd be a better father after the mortgage was gone. I told myself I'd be a better husband after the kids were in college. After. Then one morning I woke up in this chair in this room that smells like bleach, and I realized there is no after, there is only the wreckage of the now you ignored. I traded 20-40 potential conversations for a $40,000 bonus that I can't even remember how I spent. I bought Nintendo for a boy who wanted a father, and now I have a son who sends a happy birthday text because he's too busy chasing his own $40,000 ghost. The erosion is silent. You won't hear it happening. You'll just wake up one day and realize the shore you're standing on is an island and the tide has been coming in for 40 years. Stop the video right now. Lay your phone face down or push back from your desk. Look at your hands again, open them. If you're holding a pen, drop it. If you're gripping a steering wheel, feel the texture of the plastic. Those hands are the youngest they will ever be for the rest of your life. Two versions of you exist in this room right now. There is the version of you watching this, thinking about your to-do list, your inbox, and the important meeting you have at 9 a.m. tomorrow. And then there is me. I am the second version. I am you at 95, sitting in a chair that feels like a cage, screaming through a rift in time, trying to grab you by the throat and shake the later out of your head. I am the ghost of your future, and I am telling you that the spreadsheet you're worried about is a tombstone. The urgent email is a handful of dirt. You think you are being responsible. You think you are providing. I am here from the end of the line to tell you that you are actually just committing a slow-motion suicide of the soul. You are suffering from a sickness where you value a future you might never see over the people who are breathing in the next room right now. You are waiting for a permission slip from life to be happy. You won't get one. Here are your directives. They are not suggestions. They are the only way to pay down the debt before the interest swallows you whole. First, go to the person you are providing for. Look at them, not a glance, not a how was your day while looking at your phone. Look at the way the light hits their eyes. Identify one detail you've been too busy to notice: a new wrinkle, a different way they part their hair, the specific way they sigh when they're tired. This will be uncomfortable because it will reveal how long you've been looking through them instead of at them. Second, cancel one critical thing this week. Delete the meeting, decline the dinner with the networking contact who doesn't even like you. Take those 3 hours and spend them doing something entirely unproductive with someone you love. Sit on the floor, throw a ball, listen to a story without trying to fix the problem. It will be hard because your ego will tell you the world will stop turning without you. It won't. It will reveal that you are replaceable at work, but you are the only one who can fill the chair at home. Third, do the math. Sit down with your bank statement and your calendar. Calculate how many hours you spent earning security last month versus how many hours you spent in deep, undistracted connection. Divide your salary by those connection hours. Look at the number. If it's $10,362 an hour like mine, realize you are already bankrupt. I sat in my office for 40 years thinking I was a king building a castle. I didn't realize I was just a man building a wall, brick by $40,000 brick, until I couldn't hear the voices on the other side anymore. I have all the money now, I have the house, I have the security, and I would trade every cent of it, every promotion, and every brick of this house just to be back in that kitchen on November 14th, 1987. I would give it all away just to pick up that plastic bell, look at a boy with a cowlick and say, "The king can wait, Leo. I'm already exactly where I need to be, but I can't. The door is locked. I am a $500,000 stranger and the bill has come due." You still have the bell in your hand, you can still ring it, but you're going to pick up your phone and keep scrolling, aren't you? You're going to tell yourself this was powerful and then go right back to the waiting room. Go ahead, go back to work. I'll be waiting for you here at the end. I've already saved you a seat. It's very quiet.